Hey everybody, in this video we're going to talk about the expo that's on your radio. And the reason I'm making this video is the other day I was on a group on Facebook, which I probably shouldn't do, and I saw a person ask, how do I set up the expo on my radio with my airplane? Well, 2 or 3 people started to offer some advice, but one person posted, real pilots don't use expo or don't need expo. And if you're one of my longtime followers or fans, you understand that I just love to figure out solutions. I love how to see how I help people and share everything I've done with aviation. If you're one of my longtime followers, you already know, but if you're new, I'm obsessed with giant scale airplanes that are electric. They got to be at least 150-inch wingspan. And that's just my passion. And when I see people say things that are just really stupid, it eats me up because I've spent 40 years in this hobby trying to help people. So I decided to dive in and let's talk about how the expo works in your radio. So if you don't understand what it is when you move this stick all the way from one point to another point, the servo is not linear. Okay, the movement of the arm is more on a radius. So, and I'm going to show in a simulation here what that all means for you, okay? But basically, a servo is inherently very, very sensitive right in the middle, which is where your middle of your elevator or aileron would be. And as you move it, it actually gets a little bit less sensitive. So if you've ever seen some pilots coming into land, and right as they go to flare, you see them really start to kind of porpoise or they balloon up. Normally they don't have the radio set up right. Their sensitivity is way too sensitive in the middle of where the dead band or the middle of the stick should be. But I also want to touch upon that your travel of your servos, like the mechanical advantage, the way everything's set up is all geometry. And expo is there to try to tame a radial movement or a radius movement of an arm versus what a linear would be. So the way you'd set up a GB would be totally different than setting up something that has like a flying stab on it. And the way you would set up if you had spoilers on an airplane, because the S3 had spoilers on the wings because the ailerons are really, really small because it has huge flaps. So these little spoilers come up to help augment the roll, and parts are falling off it. And your expo helps enormously. When people state real pilots don't need expo, I wonder who they're talking about, because many of my pals that have participated in Top Gun or the Nationals, all the way down to Park Flyer friends, 97% of the people in a poll I ran use expo on their radio. So I would almost say real pilots use expo. So let's get into simulation here as I want to show you and explain how this breaks down, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, everybody, so what I want to do is show you here is just a little bit of the basics, and I'm sure many of you maybe understand this, but when you have a servo arm and a control arm, which are the same lengths, exactly the same lengths, when you move your stick, it's going to feel very linear, because as this starts to drop off here on the right-hand side, this is dropping off equally. Okay, so if you have exactly the same arms, you may still want to use expo to tame the center of the movement, but it's not going to be as much as if you have a setup like this, where you have a longer arm and you have a shorter arm on the elevator or aileron. Now, many people will do this because your servo might have 35 degrees of travel, but you want to get more like 3D movements. In this scenario, this is why you need expo, okay? You really do need it to try to tame this center from being so sensitive. If you go to this one, where it's the opposite, this is the way we used to tame our planes 25 years ago or 30 years ago before expo. When you're in the center here, you have a lot less movement around the axis of this point on the elevator or aileron. Okay, but the problem with this is that, 35 degrees right there, the most travel you could get on over here was like 25. That would never work with a plane set up to do 3D or something that you really want a lot of throws for aerobatic. I will also explain this to you. is that on my giant airplanes, I want as much torque as I can get off my servos. Sometimes my servos have, 340, I think it is, ounce torque. So to get more mechanical advantage, this way it's less, because you have the long arm on your servo and the short arm on your control arm. So it takes more to push this because this is a less lever arm. However, if you go to this setup, you have a lot more torque to the flying surface. You just have less travel. So let's talk just for a moment about what it really means to be linear. So I built this little model here, and hang on a minute, I need to open up something and get it out of the way. Hang on a minute. So what I'm going to do with this is that when you look down here, you can see it's aimed at the red circle. Okay, each of these are approximately 1 millimeter apart. Over here, I have a red circle. Okay, so when we talk about this being on a radius and this being linear, servos don't move linear. So let's go down here and set this to the first point. So now we're on the black circle, and if you look over here, we're not quite in the middle of the black circle. Okay, if we go over now and go to here, we're on the purple circle. Over here, we're still moving off the purple circle a little bit. Not that much, but we're off a little bit, okay? But this is where it really starts to show up, is when you get the arm really moving or traveling. So now, we should be on the other purple circle now, okay? If you look over here, we're nowhere near the purple circle. Okay, if we go to the last one I have set here, well, actually I have two more. So if you go to this, we should be on the blue circle. Over here, we are nowhere near the blue circle. Okay, so we are greatly moving less distance here because this is curving around here. And if we go to the last setting, should be on the orange circle, and as you can see, we're nowhere near the orange circle over here. So this gives you an idea of, depending on the length of your control horn on your flying surface, if the way the distances are set up, it's going to be completely different when it comes to being linear versus working around the radius of the travel of this servo distance. Okay, hope this makes sense to everybody, because I'm just trying to make people understand that Expo is a great thing if you know how to set it up on your radio. I have people all the time saying, Dad, you land your airplane like it's greased every time. You have the most, I've never seen anybody land a plane as good as you. First of all, my giant scale airplanes fly like a trainer. But by having Expo in it, I don't have a really sensitive stick when I'm doing that final flare to touch down. Okay? So we're done with simulations. Have a great day. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense, everybody. So you have so much going on with the way your linkage is set up. So a lot of airplanes that you build have a very large servo arm and a very small horn on the flying surface. So you need Expo to tame that, because it's going to be very sensitive right in the middle, but as it travels farther, you want it to be more linear. So I hope this makes sense. I hope you enjoy the videos. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to my channel. And you have an awesome day. And remember, I'm just out here trying to get facts, science, geometry, so that people can have more fun enjoying flying model airplanes. And I love taking down the haters, especially when they're putting down other people. The statement that you would say, real pilots don't need Expo. I would say you have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea what Expo really is set up for on your radio. Okay? So, and I'm not saying if you don't use Expo, there's anything wrong with you. But if you're telling other people there's something wrong with them using it, then you're an a-hole. So rock on, everybody. Have a great day and take care. Bye.